Next up this afternoon, a man from Switzerland that holds an MA in philosophy and French literature and a PhD in Arabic and Islamic studies. He held a lectureship in religion and philosophy and he's now a chair in contemporary Islamic studies in Oxford. He's authored over 15 books. And I'll tell you now, he is no stranger to controversy. He was declared a persona non grata in Tunisia, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Libya and Syria for criticising the undemocratic regimes of those nations. And he spent 6 years and lengthy proceedings to try and gain entry to the USA in the last decade. He's here to speak on religion, spirituality and ethical responsibility. Please welcome the incredible Tariq Ramadan.
Hello. It's a pleasure for me to be with you today and to talk about a topic which is essential for all of us when it comes to religion, spirituality and ethics. Very often when we talk about this, we distinguish between religions, and many people are saying, I like spirituality, I don't like religions. And others are speaking about ethics, and it's as if we can talk about one of the other and distinguish between the 2 or 3 fields. My life as a Muslim, and as you heard, was involved in many struggle for justice, for dignity around the world, not only in the Muslim majority countries, but also in the West. Being banned by the Bush administration was not a dishonor, but much more an honor in the United States. So the point here is for me to come to something which is essential. All my life what I try to do is to reconcile the 3 dimensions, coming from within a spiritual tradition and being a believer, a Muslim. I travel around the world to get the secret of what was common to all the religions and all the spiritualities. I went to meet Christians in South America, Donald del Camara and the liberation theology, and to try to understand how he was dealing with his faith, being someone who is struggling for the sake of solidarity and justice in Brazil, for example. And then I went to look at what was the secret in the Buddhist tradition, staying hours with the Dalai Lama, trying to understand how was he connecting his spirituality with something which is not known, because very often we look at him, we like the way he smiles, but we don't understand that every day in the morning at 4 o'clock in the morning he wakes up and repeat and try to get this deep understanding of what is the meaning of life, this discipline with the self, which is the secret of all spiritualities, Eastern spiritualities, African spiritualities, and even the mystical traditions that we have in the Jewish tradition and that we have also in the Islamic tradition. So I try to get the secret and to reconcile. Understanding something which is essential for me, that religions, the way we are dealing with them today, are very often understood as a reference where we prohibit, we condemn, and we punish. And it's all based on this obsession with rules, and we have to be very cautious with that the essence of religion is not about that. That when we come to the very essence of what a religion should be, in fact, is much more about the relationship you have with your own self. The way you master yourself, and you understand that you can accomplish the best, but you are able of the worst. And anyone in this room knows that. If you look at yourself, you know that you can do something, you can even don't expect you to do it because it's great, but you can do the worst. And you cannot expect you to do it because it's the worst that you can expect from a human being. We are like that. And at the end of the day, what the religions came with was control yourself. Go through this education. And the rules are here and should be here, not to punish, but to educate. Not to limit, but to give us a way of liberating ourselves from our own ego. And what is in ourselves the worst that can be in humanity? Because as human beings, we are able of changing the world and changing ourselves for the better. And this is where the whole journey starts. So in my travels and trying to find the secrets, I was dealing with all the traditions, and I understood here that what's very essential for us is to get this understanding of what our religions should be. And in fact, the secret is to ask ourselves the true meaning of freedom. In fact, freedom is not to come with a very simplistic understanding of who you are, trying to, or saying, for example, I do what I want. The first question when someone is telling you, you know what, freedom is to do what I want, is to question this statement. Are you sure that you want what you want? Because today, the very simplistic equation is to think, I do what I want, and to be driven by emotions. And we know today how much we can be alienated by and through our emotions. You go to a supermarket, you think that you are just going to buy things, and there is a music over there. And this music is all done to push you to buy. It's all about attracting your emotions, to put you in a state where you think you are free, but you're open to be a consumer. The true freedom is not about that. The true freedom is not about this emotion or these emotions that we have. It's the way we are trying to master this, and it has to do with education, with something which has to do with discipline. And I know that we don't like this word today. Discipline is perceived as something which is, in fact, against freedom. In fact, it's the opposite. Look at arts. Look at a pianist, for example. A pianist, when he is or she is playing, in order to be able to improvise, she or he should get the technique. So it's with this discipline, managing, controlling the technique, that at one point you can improvise. It's the same with the self. It's the same with your ego. When you are trying to master your emotions, trying to work on yourself, this is where you come to something which is essential to in our life, which is to get the true freedom. The true meaning of freedom, which has to do with three things. The way you look at yourself and the way you look at your own education. And I think that this is where religions and spiritualities come together. No spirituality without demanding education of the self. And this kind of emotional spirituality is not the right way of putting it. When we come to yourself and ask yourself, in which way, as you know yourself, you can, for example, come and say, during the last week, during the last months, what have I done to make myself better? In which way I'm trying to liberate myself from my ego? This is the starting point of all spiritualities. This is the starting point and should be the objectives of all spirituality. And to get this understanding here, in the way we are dealing with our ego, with ourself, there are steps. The first one, and especially for us today, living in the West, living in Western societies where we have money, we have time, we have to come to this question, which is, how do we get, or how do you go through this process of liberation? And there is something which is essential here. It has to do with knowledge. Knowledge, and there is no freedom without knowledge. Knowledge means to be able to get, Socrates said something which is essential for all of us today. Know yourself. Know yourself means take time. Be fair with your own self. Be fair with your heart. Be fair with your mind. Be fair with your money. Take time to know yourself. This will be the only way for you to change the world for the better. And this knowledge of the self is based on something which is essential. No knowledge, no freedom. Why? Because ignorance is the first jail, is the first prison. And this is what we have in all the religions, what we have in all the spiritualities. This is what is common. Instead of competing, instead of judging the religions of the other, and to look at what seems to us being bad, we might have to come to a dialogue of the center, a dialogue of what is essential for every one of us. And we will see here that we have lots to do together. But when I'm saying this, it's just not for you to sit and say, oh, this is music to my ears. No. It should be light for your heart. It should be commitment for your mind. It should be actions in your life. It should be something that you have to translate into your life. Why? Because we should stop being the observers of our own failures. To look at the world and to say, I can't do anything, I am powerless. That's not true. The reality is to change that and to become the subjects of our history, the subject of our society. Every one of us here has the power to do something, and this is what religions and spiritualities are telling us, teaching us. Start with yourself, look at your neighbor, change the world. That's the way forward, and this is why we have to come together. And while I was traveling, looking at Desmond Tutu being in South Africa saying, apartheid will never win, I will struggle. This was when it was obvious for many people that this was not going to change. And when you go and you meet Donald the Camara in Brazil dealing with poor and saying, you know what, Bible is not to be in Rome and to deal with money, it's to be in the streets and to deal with poor people. This is the very meaning of what the Christian tradition is. And when we go and see people who are anonymous people, not known, not on the headlines, not being talked about in our media, but on the streets, in their life, trying to change. And these are my teachers. These are the people that I took from them, not only from my religion, but from all the other spiritualities, all the other traditions, and also from my own traditions, taking this and saying, this is the way, this is what we have to do, and this is what we have to try to change. Knowing this, and knowing this very essence of religion should not be about prohibiting, should not be about imposing rules, but getting the very meaning of rules. This is where we understand that spirituality should be always there. But what is spirituality? Is it to isolate yourself from the world? To say, okay, look, I have my business and then I go for some hours of spirituality in my life. So I pray during the night, or I am isolating myself. I do and practice yoga, few hours. This is my spirituality? No. This is a distorted way of dealing with spirituality. In fact, and this is why the last dimension of my talk today has to do with ethics and ethical responsibility. The spirituality is all about putting meanings in our actions. And this is where the quest for meaning, and when I wrote that book, The Quest for Meaning, many people were saying, oh, you as a Muslim, why are you writing something about the quest for meaning? Because this is what is the universal, intimate quest that we have, and the universal shared values that we are looking for. Having said that, and understanding how we have to deal with these values, how we have to deal with ethics, this is where we understand the very meaning of spirituality. Put meanings in your life. And this is a simple question. You came this afternoon, you are sitting here, you are listening to people. What is the meaning of your life? What is the goal of your life? Why are you here? What are you trying to achieve? Get money at the end of the month? Have some fun this afternoon? Or coming with something which is, yes, having fun, it's good. Resting is good. Being a human being is good, if and only if we look at the world the way it is, and we look at ourselves the way we are. And the first thing that we have to do, and we all know this, if we are sincere, if we are real with our own self, we know that every one of us has a very big struggle, intimate struggle. Trust your qualities, but face your weaknesses. Trust your qualities and face your weaknesses. Face your weaknesses means you use your qualities to change the way you are by being more committed and fair with yourself. There is a supplication saying, oh God, we have been unjust with our own self. What does it mean? We have a mind, we don't respect our mind. We have a heart, we don't respect our heart. We have a body, we don't respect our body. And the starting point of everything is this. This is spirituality in action. Ethical spirituality. Be ethical even with yourself. And this is the starting point of the journey. This is where we are committed, not only by romanticizing, idealizing, and talking about spirituality in an emotional way. This is a commitment. This is a responsibility. And then we look at the world. And this is where the only way I understand my religion as a Muslim is not only to pray 5 times a day, It's not only to fast during 1 month. All this is to educate myself, to get this spirituality in action, and to try to find Christians, Jews, Buddhists, Hindus, atheists, agnostics, who understand something which is essential. We are here with a mission which is to change this world for the better. And to change this world for the better is first to look at ourselves, as I said, and then to look at the world. And so how am I going to change that? Look at this globalized world we are talking about. Don't you see now when you watch TV that sometimes you have the impression that the life of African people, Asian people, are less valuable than the life of Western people? The way we count is not exactly the same? Is this normal? We are talking about humanity, we are talking about equality, but our emotions are different when it comes to someone from our country was killed and so many people from there are killed. We are used to the numbers and our emotions are not reacting the same. It means that there is something wrong in our way of dealing with human life. There is something wrong with the way our emotions are reacting. And this is why we have to change this, by starting to be committed with and consistent with the values that we have. It's not enough to say we are all human beings. When it comes to new slavery, look at what is happening around the world. In Europe now, you have people coming from Eastern countries, women who are sold and bought and sold in this country, in the West, and we are silent. Migrants, the way they are treated, it's just undignified. Undignified. And it's not only Lampedusa, it's so many people, millions of people around the world are treated like this. Silence. And we say, okay, you know what? I'm going to pray. I'm a practicing Muslim. I'm a practicing Christian. I'm a practicing Jew, Buddhist, but we are not here to be the voice for the voiceless. Spirituality is about this. It's about meanings in all what we are doing. To be able to speak about nature that we are destroying. To be able also, in an ethical way, to deal with the way we eat and what we eat. The way we treat animals is just undignified. We are in the 21st century. We speak about nice values and we are observers. We are passive. We are not enough reconciling the three dimensions between religions, spirituality and ethics. Ethics means, look at our politicians. Look at our journalists. There is a lack of ethics in politics. There is a lack of ethics in the media. There is a lack of ethics in economy. And this is where all what I understand from my commitment to my religion, to my commitment to my values, to my commitment to ethics, is to say this is where we should stop being passive. And we have to understand religion is educate yourself, change the world. Spirituality is put meanings into your actions. Ethics mean always ask the meaning of the ends. What are you doing, what you are doing? At the end, what are you trying to get? PhDs and degrees to get the salary at the end? Why? What is the very meaning of all that? Question the goals, you will know the way. And this is where we need to come all together. It's important to work and to promote knowledge. And when I come to this, what I'm saying is that we all have to try to know each other. It's a responsibility in a pluralistic society to know more about our own religion, or about our own agnosticism, or about our own atheism and the others, the religions of the other, to know what they think and how they think. This is the way we become more understandable as to the diversity, based on knowledge, based on commitment. And at the end, the only thing that I want to add here is we have to be courageous. We have to face the reality and to try to change. Be courageous means sometimes to speak against what the people think. What the people think is right, sometimes we have to come with a just world, a just word and a just understanding of the world. And from this, be humble with your own self, as to change yourself, and be ambitious and as to change the world. And always, and this is what is the essential common message of all the religions and spiritualities, remain positive. You know why? Because it's always possible. Always possible. Remain positive, humble, and ambitious. Thank you.